welcome back to my channel. This is the Love Project. My name is Erica and we are back for another video. So happy to be back, you guys. If you have not already, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell. Ring that bell so you can get notifications when we drop another video and when I pop in on y'all. If you notice, I'm chilling. I'm sitting on the floor. I'm chilling, right? And I don't know. I just feel like this is like girl talk today. And I mean, me and you welcome, but it's girl talk because today we'll be discussing the soft life. There's been a lot of talk about living the soft life, and I think it's just a trend. I mean, I hate trends, honestly. But the soft life is real. The soft life is much needed, and the soft life is an experience that I think all women should have. But I think we need to talk about it. So we're gonna get into it. I just want to start by saying that the soft life is more than a trend, is more than being taken care of by a man, is more than getting flued out, it's more than self-care dates, it's more than flowers in a vase and stopping to get Starbucks, it's more than a mani and a pedi. Those are self-care things. Those are ways to treat yourself as a woman, and those are gifts and ways that your man or someone can treat you out to, you know, a nice time and a nice date and a nice way to pamper yourself. Yes, yes, yes. But the soft life is not those things. The soft life is more than a lifestyle on social media. Like, we have to be able to get down to the realness of everything. A real soft life requires breaking and healing. A lot of the reason we live a hard or masculine lifestyle as a woman is because we have to. There is no soft life for a woman who have to live in survival mode. Well, I personally have been through some things, and a lot of times I hear other people's stories and I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine the things that they have been through. So a soft life requires growth. You know, we are raised a certain way. We are born in certain environments, and we see things that makes us believe, for in a certain point of our life, that that particular thing, that way of living, that mentality is normal, and that it's acceptable to society and the quality of life. And then we're exposed to something else and we grow up. A soft life requires having a mirror on your own flaws. It requires, as we talked about in our previous videos, working through some trauma. Like, really looking yourself in the mirror and asking, why do I live like this? Why am I like this? Like, I don't like this about myself. I don't like that my life is going in this direction. I don't like where I am right now. Um, and I don't like the way things are going. So what can I do to stir it in another direction, right? So a soft life requires having a mirror and really looking at yourself, looking deep at yourself, looking at your own soul. A soft life requires vulnerability, because when you start looking at yourself, when you start exposing your own flaws to yourself, maybe to others, even to God, you get real vulnerable. And vulnerable is a beautiful thing, but it's not easy. And the crazy part is, it's beautiful usually in the end. it's very, very ugly at first. When you talk about revealing to your significant other who haven't known you all your life, don't know what you went through, don't know your parents, don't know how people hurt you, don't know how you've blocked some things off and put some memories on a back burner, and and you have to expose those things. You have to talk about things that you went through when you was 5 and 6 and stuff you probably wanted to forget about. That's vulnerability. When you see a friend or somebody going through something and you have to expose your trial and your tribulation, you have to expose um your sin, and you have to expose what you've been through just to be able to be a light to them, just to be able to provide hope to them. That's vulnerability. And that's a requirement for the soft life, the real soft life. So I truly believe that you cannot experience a real soft life outside of Christ. Um, I one day I wrote a poem, but pretty much in the poem, I talked about how it was a poem about how I found Christ unexpectedly. And in the poem, I was talking about walking on this road. I was walking down this road and I had all these bags, so many bags that this gentleman noticed. And he started walking with me. And, at first I didn't want to talk to him and I didn't want to be bothered. I just was trying to get where I was going, trying to do me, right? And during this walk, he was consistent. He was like, "No, I'm going the same way. Let me walk with you." And eventually, after he kept asking, kept pursuing, I was like, "Okay, fine, you can walk with me, right?" But I'm, holding up my bags. And he was like, "That's a lot of bags you got there. Let me help you." And I'm like, "Oh no, I got it. I'm good. You don't need to help me." And as we walk and the longer we walk, the heavier those bags got. And so, pursuing, persistent, he kept saying, "Let me help you. Let me help you. Whatever bag you want to get, it don't matter. The heaviest, the lightest, just let me take some of this off you. Let me help you. I'm walking with you. We going the same way. Let me help you." And I said, "Well, okay." And I give him a bag. But in the midst of me giving him my bags, I was worried. I was in my mind and I was saying, what if my alcohol fall out and he know that I be drinking? What if, all the stuff from my past found out, fall out, and he find out, that I done been with all these different men, and all these things, all these things that we worry about, trauma, past hurt, what we done did, and just the secrets of our life. And so this is why I was willing to carry my own bags, even though I had help, even though the gentleman was with me, even though he was asking to help me. And of course, the gentleman is Jesus. But, I eventually passed the bags on and I felt so much lighter. It was so much easier to walk. I felt like I was getting to my destination faster. Our conversations were better because not only was I free, I was more open, right? So in this time, in this walk, in this journey, he just relieving me of those weights. He relieving me of that baggage. He relieving me of my past. And eventually, you know, he was like, that you don't need this stuff. I appreciate you giving it to me, let me help you with it, but in reality, you don't even need this stuff. These bags, they can go. They do you no good. And truth be told, you don't want to know where you're going anyway. And so we got rid of the bags. And we just kept on walking. And of course, I'm not to the end of that journey. He's still walking with me. But the beautiful thing about it is I gave it over. I found comfort. I found a friend. Um, I found a savior. And I will never be alone, because on this journey I got somebody with me who love me, who care for me, and who's always there to help whatever the need may be. And that, my friend, um, is the soft life. It's the real soft life. And so Jesus is the Prince of Peace. He is Jehovah Shalom. He is our peace. And in order to have a real soft life, you need peace. It's no way you can put whatever you want on social media. You can buy all the flowers you want, go to all the pedicure spots you want. You could spend all the money you don't have trying to look good, trying to have this life that seems good, trying to make yourself happy, shopping and doing all this stuff for yourself. You can do all of that, and if you don't have peace, when you cut that camera off, when you get off social media, when you lay your head at night, it's gonna be a wall in your mind. It's gonna be a wall in your mind. And it's so bad because you don't even like the conversation you have with yourself. You don't even like the conversation you having with yourself when there's nobody around. You need peace. Peace is the real soft life, and peace only comes from Jesus. He is the only one that can give you peace. We have temporary happiness. We have temporary emotions that can make us feel good for a moment, for a season, for a time. But peace only comes through Christ. And that's the real soft life. Jesus also expresses the ultimate love. You have never, and I don't care if you have kids, I don't care if you had the best parents, the best grandmother, whatever, you have never experienced love if you haven't experienced the love of God. It is something so, so, so sweet about the love of God. And without this, you ain't living no soft life, hon. Without love, you ain't living no soft life. You can fool yourself, but I guarantee you, if you don't have love, and we've been on here talking about romantic love, but there is agape love. Agape love is God kind of love. It's love that even when you may feel lonely, you feel covered. Even when things ain't going the way you expected, you know that there is a God in heaven that loves you. Even when there are things that you don't pray for, it's just like pondering in your heart. It's just something you think about, and something you're like, oh, that would be nice. I ain't gonna pray about it, but that would be nice. And then he do it, and you're like, that's love. That's showing that he care about every little thing about you, every little detail about you. Grace is a soft life. When you deserve one thing and then you get something else, that's grace. So, for instance, I am always just grateful of God's grace and mercy when I look at my life, because from where I come from what I've been through, from how I've lived in the past, like, it should have been another way, y'all. It should have been another way. But God gave me grace, right? When you live in fornication, when you sleeping with different people, and I don't mean, at the same time, but, when you've been with multiple people in your life before marriage, and the wages of sin is death. So at the end of the day, when you're living in fornication, there's diseases, there's unplanned pregnancies, there's, putting yourself in situations where you have to get abortions. All of these things could have happened to me because that's the lifestyle I was living. And by God's grace, I didn't have to experience those things. Mercy, self life, protection. Protection is the self life. Those are things, well, even as a single woman, think about the fact of like feeling like you're out here, and in the case you needed to like really be protected, you don't have anyone. Now, in reality, you have someone, but when you're a single woman, you feel like you don't have anyone because we look to men for protection. So, having protection is the real self life. The fact that you got to be out here getting your mace, watching your back, all this stuff going on with sex trafficking, and you got to be, mindful and just on cue and on guard at all times. Like, it's real out here. So, but God protect. Let me tell y'all a little testimony. And it's crazy because I don't talk about this often, but anyway, um I was modeling. Like growing up, people used to always say, "Oh, you should be a model, you should be a model." And after this point, I was like outside of school. If you outside of like high school, but if you see me, y'all, I got legs for these. And I wanted to be a model. I really did. But I had a horrible experience. I was 15. I actually had started modeling classes and stuff, and I ran into this guy who was looking for models. Um, and I didn't run into him by choice. Somebody introduced me to him, and it was, like I said, it wasn't by choice. I was only 15. I was staying home from school. I didn't feel well. And like I said, somebody kind of introduced him, was like, "Oh, he looking for models. He trying to do a shoot today. It'll just be a couple hours. Should make some money. Cool, right?" Um, and I was able to leave. Now, this person came to our house at the time and basically told my grandma, "Oh, you should let Erica go and whatever, whatever. She already modeling. Let her go make this money." So my grandma like, okay, right? Now, honestly, I feel like my grandma was a little leery of the person or maybe the situation or whatever, right? And so she was like, "Well, who are you? Give me your information, whatever, whatever." So he give her, his IDs and some different stuff or whatever to, make her feel okay with me going. And so, she like, okay, whatever, whatever. So I leave with the guy, and the crazy part is he had his son. So a child, maybe like probably about 3 or 4, if that old. Honestly, he probably was about 3. And so me and my child, we leave and go to do this shoot right quick, right? Um, and so as we get in the car, we leave, and as we ride, and I'm in the front seat, or I'm in the passenger seat, he driving, and the child is in the back. And so he shows me this book or whatever. The book is kind of like a magazine, and he like, so this is, the kind of work we do, and this is what type of shoot we'll be doing today. I opened the book. The book is porn. It was like a foot fetish um book, and literally is like pictures of women feet with men's sperm all over it. I mean, it was the most degrading, like it was the most filthiest thing I've ever seen. Mind you, I'm 15. Um, Honestly, I don't think, yeah, I had never saw sperm before. Like real life sperm somewhere? Never. So I'm like, what what is going on? Y'all, I was terrified. I'm like, oh my goodness. And at this time we living in Georgia. Now listen, I tell people different states got different demons. Because as crazy as New Orleans is, listen, I done been caught in shootouts. I done been around the craziest stuff. Like, I mean, I done seen some hood stuff. I grew up in the project. Like, any moment, anytime it could go down. Right? I done seen some stuff in my younger years just growing up in the project. But one thing for sure, two things for certain. One, they didn't play with no kids. Two, you ain't had to worry about getting kidnapped. You knew everybody. And if you didn't know them, everybody else already had their eye on them. So that was just one of the things you didn't have to worry about growing up in New Orleans, getting kidnapped and going missing and all that type of stuff. That wasn't the type of party, right? So I'm in Georgia, we in Atlanta this after Katrina, and I'm like, I am way in Georgia, like we don't know nobody like that. This man is about to take me, and I ain't going back home. I am like freaking out in my mind, but I'm remaining calm. Like something in me just was like, remain calm, right? So I'm flipping out in my mind. I'm looking at this book, and I was like, well, this ain't what I signed up for. And he was like, it's okay, I'm gonna take you to the nail shop and get your feet done. And I'm like, oh, so you serious? Like, he's serious, right? And then we gonna go to the house. This is where we do all the shoots and all this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm probably about to become somebody's sex slave. Like, I'm not going home. Like, nobody not gonna do this type of stuff to you. At least that's not what I believe, and bring you home. So if a person gonna treat you like this and put you through some sexual stuff at 15 and whatever, you can make me believe I was going home after this, right? So now, what I do, I get in survival mode. I'm like, Lord, I don't know how I got in this situation, but I'm going home. I gotta go home. Like, I can't let this happen, right? I can't willingly let this happen. And so I'm riding. We get around an area I'm actually familiar with because we was like around my school. And mind you, I don't know much about where I live because I haven't been living that long, but I knew this was around the area that I go to school. So I'm looking, I'm like, okay, so we like around my school, meaning that if I get out, if I jump out, if I run out, at least I'll be able to kind of figure out how to get back home, right? Whatever. So just thinking about these scenarios, right? As clear as day, I heard a voice that said, put your hand to your side, act like you have something in your pocket, look him dead in the eyes and tell him, bring me home, and bring me home now. As sure as my name is Erica, I put my hand to my side like I had something in my pocket. I looked him dead in the face. Now he driving. I said, bring me home, and bring me home now. I'm not gonna tell you again. He looked at me. He pulled over in front of church. He pulled over in front of church. He looked at me. He was like, you sure? I said, you heard what I said? He pulled off and brought me home. When we pulled up in my neighborhood, in our apartments, my grandma was outside in the middle of the street, on the phone with the police, screaming. Like, I don't know who she was trying to get in touch with the neighborhood. Maybe she was trying to see if somebody knew him or something, but she was outside in the middle of the street. When we pulled back up in my apartment, because it was like a one-way in, one-way out apartment, and as soon as she pulled out, my grandma in the middle of the street on the phone with the police, screaming and crying and whatever. I get out the car. He hurry up, backed up, and pulled out. And my grandma, she like grabbed me. She like, I was just calling the police. Like, all of his information is fake. I called the numbers, they didn't work. All this stuff. I'm like, I wasn't coming home. I wasn't coming home. But God, that was the first time in my life I heard God's voice. That was God's protection. He protected me. I can't imagine what would have happened to me that day. I can't imagine what I would have went through. I can't imagine the weight my family like would have dealt with. And man, that's the real soft life. Like having protection, God's protection, that's the soft life. So, um, you don't have to always, you know, look like what you've been through. That's the soft life. When a person see you, a person talk to you, a person know you, and they have no idea the stuff you've been through, that's the soft life. Listen, the soft life ain't this picture of a person and how you live and what you got and all of this stuff. Like, that's fake. That's so fake. And listen, I don't know about y'all, but I ain't no fake person. Like, I'm not one to put on no show for nobody. Like, your life, your real life is for you. It's for you to live. Your real life experience is for you. It's not for the world. Now, don't get me wrong. If you like to put people in your business, do your thing. I ain't here to knock nobody because it could be a personality thing. But all in all, like, don't live for social media. Don't live for the world. Don't live for, approval and claps and pats on the back. Like, live your life for you and make sure you actually happy. Putting out these false realities and putting out, this fake life, and you cut that camera off, or you get off social media, you get off the phone. If you bragging to people, you get off the phone. You get home and you unhappy. Why why well, that's how I feel. Like, your real life should be so much better than what people around the world on social media could ever imagine. If it's the opposite, if people have this big and grand belief of who you is and what you got and how you live on social media, and your real life either don't match that or not better, something wrong. Something wrong. And I can guarantee you a lot of these soft life women, a lot of these, men, these gurus and whatever, they faking it, y'all. And so, um, yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. We can kind of talk about this more, but the real soft life is in Christ. The real soft life is when you lay down at night. Um, if you have peace, if you have the joy of the Lord, if you've been able to iron out the kinks that life have thrown your way, if you don't look like what you've been through because you've made it through, um, if you have healed, if you forgive, if you've been forgiven, um, then the soft life can be your portion. You can have that, you can live that, and you can own that, and you can coin that, right? But don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Don't think you gotta keep up with the Joneses, spending all your money to self-care days and doing all this stuff for yourself when you really got other stuff you need to be spending your money on. Ordering all this stuff online, trying to make your house look like one of these Airbnb rentals that they be shooting all their videos in, whatever they be doing. But yeah, put all that stuff to the side and do what you need to do for you. to live a better life, a real soft life. Because, baby, once you find Christ, oh yes, soft life loading. Okay? All right. Well, I love y'all, and I will see y'all next time. Love ya.